Pacifism has an elegant simplicity to it that provides much of its appeal. It states that violence, murder, war are all wrong, that all violence from slapping to genocide are interrelated. One leads to the other, in effect. That violence breeds violence, and therefore that it is best not to be violent or to support violence, because it never solves problems. It can only continue or start new problems. Of course, in reality, pacifism has variants. Not every pacifist is pure, so to speak. In practice, very few people are pacifists rejecting all violence, but many people who are not pacifists will still support pacifism, saying it would be a better world if violence did not exist, if murder, war, assault and rape vanished from the world. It's hard to argue with that. Of course it would be better. After all, no one's lining up to be murdered, killed in a war, bashed or raped, are they? The utopian vision within pacifism is clear, that people can change the world if only enough of us believe, if only enough of us stop using violence, if only our governments behaved morally, then violence would end. The history of the world be damned. Ignore it, reject it, and instead believe in the human power to change reality. Human nature either doesn't exist or needs to be resisted and changed. Remember, you're rejecting reality. Sadly, we do not and have never had the power to end war. Specific wars, yes, but not all wars. Neither do we have the power, individually or collectively, to end violent crime. The truth is, we have only limited ability to control the violence of others. We do not even have total control over our own violence. Much personal violence is based on our emotions. Are you totally in control of your emotions? Know anyone else who is? If you know someone who is, you're a very rare person. If you are in control of your emotions, you're even rarer. The idea that we can control our emotions is very appealing. That we can control the emotions of others may be even more appealing. Of course, that doesn't mean people are uncontrollable or that people should not seek to control themselves. That's a false division, the idea that only two extremes are possible. Our government are extensions of us. Governments are not people, but they are made up of people. That is something that seems to be forgotten by many. That means that they share the attributes of people, or to be more correct, the actions of government share the attributes of people, because they are made by people. It is people who make the decisions of government. Pride, fear, anger, greed, ignorance, principles, ideals, love, hate are just some of the emotions people feel. When people in government make decisions, those and many other emotions come into play, and that includes when issues of violence are at stake. Many times violence will be rejected for one reason or another. There are more imagined wars than actual wars. But other times violence will not be rejected, but used. Some may argue that if emotion was left out, then violence would have no place. But logic often demands violence. Logic can be as cruel as master as emotion, because the logical response to violence is often violence. Of course, if it is accepted that violence breeds violence, then the next logical question becomes, is there a limit to how much violence we can endure? If there is, then the logical response is violence. If there is no limit, then logic dictates that may mean extinction. Very few people are ever happy with that answer. If all violence is wrong, then beating someone else is just as reprehensible as them defending themselves. How dare those monsters defend themselves? There's also no place for loyalty. Your nation's army is just as wrong as your enemies. Pacifists must always be on the lookout for wrongdoing, including by their own country, maybe especially. They are an internationalist by default, the ultimate relativist. If all war is wrong, if all violence is wrong, self-defense is just as wrong as aggression. Unless everyone decides to be a pacifist at the same hour on the same day, it means that the principled are merely the victims of those who remain unprincipled. War and violence isn't wrong or right, it is reality. It exists. And pacifism tries to pretend that if reality is unpleasant, then reality must change. Reality must submit to ideology. Violence exists for a reason, and because we do not understand it or like it, does not change it.